What's going on with Auston Matthews? Is this a new injury or a lingering injury that maybe has led to his slow start out of the gate this season? To talk about that and tonight's game against the Boston Bruins, let's bring in Mark Masters. Mark, let's get right to the news. All we know officially from the Leafs is that Auston Matthews is out for tonight's game with an upper body injury. What more can you tell us about the injury itself and the timeline?
Well, head coach Craig Berube said it's something that he has been playing through. So this has been a lingering issue. The Leafs are about to play for the fourth time in 6 nights, so the schedule has been pretty unforgiving. He misses tonight's game. They don't play again until Friday. We'll see where his status goes from here, but this is something that he's been playing through and perhaps explains a bit why we haven't seen the usual production from Auston Matthews this season. Only the 5 goals through the 13 games, 8 straight without a 5-on-5 goal. So, Gino, a little bit more context to what we've been seeing with Auston Matthews this season.
When Berube uses those words, fighting through it, is that way potentially to not only explain what's going on, but also maybe to protect Auston Matthews from everybody who's circling right now, continually saying what's going on with him? Because you said he's only on a pace for 32 goals. For a normal player, that's pretty good. For Auston Matthews, that's less than half of what he did last year.
Yeah, it is notable that the coach would reveal that because usually, tight-lipped with injuries. So he puts that added context out into the marketplace. I don't think that there's been a lot of heat on Matthews in terms of what he's been getting asked in scrums, and to that degree, he's found ways to still kind of get on the board at times. Obviously, he had that big 6-on-5 goal against the Bruins late last month. The incredible little bank pass here for that empty net goal against the Seattle Kraken. I mean, he's found a way, right? He's found a way. He's on the top penalty kill unit. He's doing a lot of things well. It's just, obviously, when you're talking about the greatest goal scorer of the game right now, not scoring goals, it does raise eyebrows. So, yeah, I do think it is notable that Berube said that it had been a nagging thing. And the coach also said it has nothing to do with a wrist injury that Matthews was dealing with that delayed his start to the season a few years ago. So that's another positive for the Leafs, that it's not the wrist, I think, when you're talking about, again, the game's best goal scorer.
All right, so as you mentioned, there's no official timeline just yet. All we know so far is he's going to miss just the one game, but the Leafs have to adjust. Auston Matthews off that top line. So 2 questions. Who takes his spot on the top line, and who takes his spot on the power play?
So it'll be Max Domi on the top line, and, he's filled in well in that spot. Just look at the playoffs against Boston last year, which the Leafs won the 2 games that Matthews missed, games 5 and 6. Domi was in that spot on the top line, looked pretty good in that spot. I think he's shown in spurts when he gets bumped up the lineup, he can really deliver. And so they'll be looking for that tonight as he slots in between Matthew Knies and Mitch Marner. Of course, Domi and Marner, they have the London Knights chemistry. They enjoy playing with each other. So, they feel like they can still, have a very good first line here in this game here tonight. On the power play now, the power play's been interesting, right? Because they've been trying all sorts of different things to get it going. And finally, on Sunday, they go with this 5-forward look with Mitch Marner up top, Matthew Knies in front of the net, and it delivers. They get a goal. Matthews threads the needle to Nylander. William Nylander scores on the power play. They get some positive mojo going, and now, obviously, with Matthews out, they have to adapt again. So Matthew Knies will stay in front of the net. Morgan Riley, the usual quarterback on that unit over the years, will slot back in on that top unit. So we'll see the more traditional minus Matthews look on the power play for the Leafs in this game as they try and build on what they did in that game against Minnesota.
Listen, the timing's never good to lose Auston Matthews out of the lineup, but the timing is especially bad right now. They're facing their arch rival, the Boston Bruins. Not only that, but they're facing the Bruins as they've begun to turn things around. Not only that, but they're facing David Pastrnak after he got benched for an entire period. What are the Leafs anticipating, and what do you think about the timing of this, Mark?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like great timing for the Leafs, right? That Pastrnak would get benched for that whole third period on Sunday in that win against Seattle. I asked William Nylander, who's very close with Pastrnak, what sort of Pastrnak is he expecting tonight, and he said a fired-up Pasta. And then I spoke to Boston Bruins youngster Matt Poitras down in their room after their optional skate, and he said that Pasternak's going to be flying tonight, and he always seems to bring his best against the Leafs. And I remember Game 6 in this building, just down the hall here in the media room, and Jim Montgomery called out Pasternak and said, Pasta's got to be better, and we know what happened in Game 7 in overtime. So, yeah, the Leafs are expecting that Pasternak's going to be a lot to handle in this game here tonight.
And I think we're expecting that Anthony Stolarz is in net tonight, because that's kind of interesting to me, because in my mind, he's been the better of the two goalies. But I think it's been pretty obvious the Leafs are trying to push Joseph Woll forward as their number one guy. You would think tonight would be a game for your number one guy to take the net. Is that a message to the Leafs internally that Stolarz is going to net tonight against the Bruins?
I think, the way Berube explains it is that, Stolarz had the better of the last two games that we just saw over the weekend, right? Joseph Woll losing in regulation in St. Louis, Stolarz playing well in an overtime loss in Minnesota, and he felt good about Stolarz's game, so you go back to him. The way the schedule is over the next kind of 10 days or so, it kind of sets up where both guys are going to play. They have a back-to-back Friday and Saturday this week. They also have a back-to-back Tuesday and Wednesday next week, so both guys are going to play in those back-to-backs. So this was the one game where you could reward someone if you wanted to go with a gut feel, and that's what Berube's doing here tonight. Stolarz took the loss in Boston late last month, so he gets a chance to kind of avenge that. He said after that game, he knows Jeremy Swayman's going to play well at the other end, so he has to be locked in. And he felt pretty good for the most part in that game against Boston last month. He felt maybe the third goal he could have stopped, but he played well. He can build on that. That was his first ever game against the Bruins, so they're going back to him tonight. I think he earned it. Again, after we get through this stretch where they have the back-to-backs, then we can kind of reevaluate where things stand with the goaltending. But for right now, it's for sure Stolarz is kind of the guy of the moment in the Leafs crease.
And, of course, the story of the moment is Auston Matthews out. By the way, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and, of course, you and Masters Nations know this, but I'm saying this for the rest of our audience. The Leafs 35-19-2 without Auston Matthews in the lineup. But, Mark, as you will point out, the Leafs have lost 8 straight regular season games to the Boston Bruins. Mark Masters getting set as the Leafs get set to face their arch rival Bruins tonight.